everybody. My name is Sophia Gonzalez, and I'm one of your 8 honor leaders. I'm from the Campo Family YMCA in Valrico, Florida, and I guess I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I'm 19 years old, although by the time this airs, I will have turned 20. Yay! I go to school in Atlanta, Georgia. I go to Georgia Tech, and I can say my ABCs backwards. All right, enough about me though. I'm actually here to talk to you guys about the word responsibility. We all have responsibilities, and many times it is something that can be overlooked and underemphasized. It is the key to becoming the most successful version of yourself and letting others know you are an accountable individual. Responsibility is defined as the state or fact of having a duty to deal with something or of having control over someone. I believe responsibility is to be measured by how we approach the seemingly less important tasks in life. Some of our main responsibilities as teenagers come from school and feeling the pressure to do well no matter what. I would like to share one of my experiences in dealing with the responsibility of school. In the fall semester of my sophomore year, I was faced with taking my most challenging course yet. It was material that I had never seen before and initially seemed impossible for any human to master. That semester, I went in with a little too much confidence and did not take my responsibilities as seriously as I needed to. I slacked off and put off what seemed like insignificant tasks for the class. Little by little, I dug myself into a hole, and in the end, I wasn't able to dig myself out and I failed the course. I had never failed a class before, felt completely defeated, and looked back at my irresponsibility with regret. I was given the chance to retake the course this past spring, and I completely changed the way that I approached the class the second time around. After putting in my full effort, I ended up passing the class with an A and feeling extremely proud of myself. Sometimes it takes failing to truly learn how to better yourself. So the next time you fall short of any goal, take it as an opportunity to change your approach to things and focus on all responsibilities, including the seemingly trivial ones. At Blue Ridge, responsibility can mean a lot of different things. It can be waiting until you see a trash can to throw away your gum wrapper, making sure you're on time to all your classes, or even just making sure you're there for other people when they need it. One of the first things people notice about leaders is how responsible they are. Leaders are always on top of everything they have on their to-do list and follow through with all responsibilities given to them. High on that list of responsibilities should be the responsibility we have to ourselves. We need to make sure we are always trying to make ourselves feel healthy with an emphasis on mental health. To do this, we can talk about our feelings, take breaks, accept our flaws, and ask for help when we need it. Simple actions such as these can ensure we are doing our part in taking responsibility for ourselves. Though we cannot always control our circumstances, we can always control the way we react to our circumstances. We owe it to ourselves to find the good in our lives and fight to focus on it. Remember, if you're ever struggling with your responsibilities, never hesitate to reach out for help. I hope you all have a good night and enjoyed this spirit talk on responsibility. Bye.
Hello, welcome to the alumni testimonial for this evening. I'm telling you, I'm really excited tonight to be sitting with Elizabeth Bergamini Day. You'll hear all about her story here in just a second, but man, want to just thank Sophia Gonzalez for a wonderful interpretation of her word responsibility today. What a nice way to segue into a conversation around somebody who definitely practices responsibility every day in her YMCA career. And so without any further ado, let me introduce to you Elizabeth Bergamini Day. Now, I have to take just a second before she gets to talk. And I have to tell you that Vergie was a Leaders Club kid at the Tri-City YMCA back when most of this hair was still black. And she can remember when Ryan and Jeff were just skinny little punk high school kids as she was growing up. So Verdi is a good old friend from Tri-City YMCA, and it's really a pleasure to have her on tonight. So Elizabeth, welcome and thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you very much. I'm really excited to be here. Hi, guys.
So before we flash back deep into the annals of history, tell us what you do right now for a living, Elizabeth.
Okay. I have made a YMCA career, which I kind of always knew I was going to do. My mom used to always tell me that I was either going to be a physics professor or I was going to work for the Y. So I went the YMCA route. I've always known that's what I wanted to do. Yeah, not very similar. Um, but I've always known that's what I wanted to do. The Y was my first job at day camp at Tri-City, and coming out of college, I worked for the Y on and off, and then I worked at resident camp, and then I was on resident camp board. And then when my kids were young, I came back and started running gymnastics part-time at a Y here in Kentucky in Greater Cincinnati Association, and then just moved up and took over more things. I have been at the RC Durr branch for the past 9 years, and then during the pandemic, I got moved down to our flagship location downtown, which is the Central Parkway Y, as the director over that branch now. So I do everything. It's a weird time to work for the Y. For those of you who are on staff, you know that. It is challenging and exciting and exactly what I feel like I was prepared to do. So
I tell you, we do have a lot of YMCA staff tuning in tonight. As a matter of fact, our morning workout this morning, Ben Major, I don't know if you took part in Ben's class this morning, but Ben's a YMCA professional, also had a lot of different YMCAs on his resume. And so, yeah, we certainly all can attest to some weird days right now. But
absolutely.
speaking of weird days, let's flash back to 13 years old. Do you remember your first year? What was your first year? What year was it technically? Tell us about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started at Blue Ridge when I was 13 in 1994. I was one of the leaders that did 6 years and then was an honor leader my 7th year. So 1994 was my first year. And it's funny because when I was a kid growing up at Tri-City, that's what you did when you turned 12. Like everybody you went to day camp, and then when you grew up, that's what you did. And you joined Leaders Club, and everyone I looked up to, and I sort of am lucky, I had the trifecta of amazing first Leaders Club advisors. So for all of you who don't know, my first Leaders Club advisors were Greg, Ryan, and Jeff. So you really couldn't have picked a more perfect or lifelong I don't know, friendship and inspiration and role models that have 100% shaped who I am today. So it's funny because I remember being in 94, I was so nervous because Ryan Graham's younger brother actually was a good friend of mine. He was my first boyfriend, truth be told. And that year, probably, or maybe the year before, and he had been to Blue Ridge, and I had heard about it from him and from Greg and Ryan, and I just thought it was this magical place that I couldn't wait till I got to go to. And I was one of those leaders that my first year, I felt like I had shined at my club and then got to the mountain and was so nervous and didn't know how to, it was just very overwhelming because everybody knew each other and everybody was best friends and everybody was very welcoming, but it was very overwhelming. It was like, but the most impactful thing I remember from that year was that Jeff actually didn't come to Blue Ridge with us that year. He stayed home to run day camp. And he sent a letter to our club. And I remember sitting down and having our club meeting, and they read the letter, and Jeff listed out what he thought everybody was doing. And he said, Verdi, which was my nickname, He said, I'm sure Virgie's on her way to Honor Leader 2000. And I just remember being floored. And I may have told him this last year when I came back on staff, but he has no idea how impactful that was in my life. As a 13-year-old girl, to have somebody or multiple people believe in you even more than you can possibly believe in yourself at such an important age, to have somebody believe in you.
Wow.
Was absolutely life-changing. And that is by far the thing I remember the most about that year. I mean, I remember the really long bus rides. Cincinnati used to have huge clubs, and we had tons of clubs. And we went ahead and went on down to Blue Ridge Leader School, not up to anything else. And we took this huge charter bus at the time. And I remember being like, it felt like the longest drive on the planet. And at the end of the week, I just remember thinking, I don't ever want to leave here. And I can't wait to come back every year. And I can't wait to do this. And this is how it's going to be forever. And then my advisors changed and lots of things changed. And I think the next year you left to go to Atlanta.
Atlanta, 95, yes.
Yep. So, and I mean, I got some really amazing and impactful advisors after that. And it's funny how life weaves those people back in and out of your life. My boss now was telling me the other day that Barry Martin, who was an advisor of mine after you all had left, that he had been up for a job in Cincinnati a couple years ago, and I had no idea. And then Trish Kitchell, who was my advisor long after that, I work with as a colleague now. She's,
wow.
Yeah. So
wow.
It was a good first year.
That's a pretty good first year. The Jeff thing, I didn't know. That's impressive. That's exactly Jeff Janin. So not surprised at all. Well, all right. So you mentioned that you had the blessing of going all 6 years and serving as an honor leader. So that's a pretty big deal. But if you look back on all 6 of your years and your honor leader year, was there one that just shined and like, that's the year I love telling about? Could you tell maybe everybody that's a part of this call tonight maybe about your favorite year?
Absolutely. Probably my third or fourth year. I didn't have a favorite year. I'd say I'd had favorite parts of different years. So
okay, well, let's hear that.
The third or fourth year, what's amazing is that you get the rhythm of the school. You understand that 5 minutes early is 10 minutes late, and you get the campus, and you know where to go and how to do things and what to bring, and you know how to. Well, I clearly was in better shape to do this then, but lots of things you understand by then, which is amazing. You get to do some cool classes. I fell into this weird gap where my first year and second year, so gymnastics was a required class and swim lessons was a required class. When I was a first year, gymnastics was required for first years. When I was a second year, they changed it and gymnastics was required for second years. So I got to take gymnastics twice and never had to take swim lessons, which for a person who is not a swimmer and was an elite gymnast, greatest thing ever. And that truly impacted my career. I ran gymnastics for most of my life until the past few years. Once you get to years like 5 and 6, the thing that I think is amazing about that is just the relationships that you have with people, because your year gets to know each other so well. And so there were parts of every year that I loved. Honestly, for me though, I think that I loved my honor leader year. This is going to sound silly, but it was nice to just feel like you really get to see the fruits of your labor and like you get to make a true impact, and that the relationships that you get to have with people. And I still have people reach out to me now who were like first year leaders then, or just were leaders or counselors then, that they're like, oh my gosh, you were Virgie. That was a big deal. For me, though, when I came back last year, so after my honor leader year, I was not back for 19 years.
19 years.
Not intentionally. I'm gonna lie, I didn't really know how to apply to come be on staff or anything like
Right.
that. That wasn't a thing. And then I had a whole lot of kids and was home and did things. And last year was amazing because in my job, I don't get to work with teens that often. I have a teenager. I have a sophomore in high school, and yeah, that's weird. So he is the oldest of my three kids, and I mean, he's pretty awesome, but that's because he's mine and I can talk to him in a certain manner. You know, my only interactions with teens were mostly a few teens who had worked for me. And then my husband is a police officer, so I hear more about teens through him than through good things.
Sure.
And the teens that I see at the Y through swim team and stuff like that were not the best experiences. And so I honestly did not have a lot of necessarily great expectations
Sure.
for the program. And I was blown away. Like I was reinvigorated in a part of Y work that I don't get to do a lot, like to the point where I was like, how can I make teens more of what I do now? Because just, I was so impressed with what some of these clubs are doing, and these kids are going to change the world. And for a generation that gets told that they are only on their phones and they don't know how to interact in person, they do. That's so baloney. They know how to integrate the best. They know how to like take a photo and post it to Instagram and then immediately go back to loving the person next to them. And I was just blown away. So.
Well, you mentioned that you came back on staff and you were teaching gymnastics and biomechanics still on the mountain today in the very pavilion you had to take class in 94 and 95. But when you look back on your 6 years of classes, is there one class or one memory that you're just like, this one sticks out?
Probably, and I'm not going to know what class it is. Whatever reason I had to go up that giant tall ropes coursey thing.
Experiential learning.
Yes, was that what it was called in 90 or in 98? Whatever it was then.
Sure.
Because I am petrified of heights, like absolutely petrified of heights. So that is the class that I remember the most.
Okay.
Like actively conquering fear in being out of my element, because I can do almost anything else. And that's the one where I the most remember being like, nope, I'm out. And so probably that.
Good deal. Well, so you had quite a life after Blue Ridge Leader School. And one of the things the kids this year and every year learn is lots of leadership lessons, lots of things that when you're a 13-year-old kid, you're not going to think this has any, why am I going to need to remember this? This is like calculus or trigonometry or all the other crap that I was terrible at. And so you're thinking nothing that Tom Thurlkill or Kevin Dean or Greg Hall or any of the people are saying is going to matter. But then, you know, we have the blessing of being older and looking back going, holy smokes, that was a real nugget that I've used. To this day, whenever I get in an outdoor environment, I always look into the sun so that whoever's talking to me doesn't have to look into the sun. And I do it just like I breathe. It's like second nature. And so I'm curious if you have taken anything away that you use either today or that you've passed on to your sophomore child or your husband. Any life lessons that you can remember directly from the school or from the club?
Absolutely. The Lombardi time, 5 minutes early is 10 minutes late. Still sticks with me to this day. Meetings, people who show up directly on time for meetings, especially in-person ones. And then in this day and age, even like Zoom ones, when the host of a Zoom call is late to a call. And then like event planning and organization, probably just from everything, running Leaders Club overnights And then this is going to sound silly, but risk management is a huge one for me. To even taking is risk. I don't know if risk management is still a class now. I don't think it is,
Yeah,
but it
it's
was.
not.
And we had to learn like OSHA and MSDS sheets, which is not what they're called anymore. But like being able to apply for jobs now, and granted, it's not like I throw that on my resume from one class, but to be
Right.
able to even speak the language, that was a big deal. Now, granted, with my Y work and Blue Ridge being set up very specifically to raise program directors, I was sort of blessed in that. But even in other jobs that I've had, and even in events that I've done in college in my sorority or in different things, my understanding of risk management is really tied to that from different classes that I've taken. So I think that's just really and the ability to kill time in line without being bored.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to throw you a curveball. This
Okay.
this isn't planned, but you mentioned something, and it's got me thinking of a question I want to ask you before I ask you your last question.
Okay.
And so you you mentioned that you stepped away for 19 years,
Mm-hmm.
right? So when you left after being an honor leader, this year's honor leaders, like Sophia, who's 19 years old, was being born.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
so I'm curious, since you came back to the school last year after being gone for so long,
Mm-hmm.
can you tell me anything about how the school felt? Did it feel the same? Did it feel different? What was the magic still there? Talk to me about that. You're in a very unique position, so I'd love to
Yeah.
hear, you remember way back in the day, right? So to
Mm-hmm.
use our old person's terms, the good old days. But
Yeah.
it got you hooked in the why, so it must have been something magical. And so
Absolutely.
now you saw it this year through new eyes. And so tell me what you saw.
Absolutely. That is probably the thing I was the most excited about, was that even with, because I've watched it for years, I've debated applying for staff for a couple years, and I've watched it and I was like, wow, everything's technology now, etc. And when I got there, it was exactly the same. Like the magic of it was exactly the same, even though so many things are different because we live in a very different time, child protection wise and risk management wise. I mean, there are things that don't exist now that existed then, and then there are things that exist now. There are walls on the pavilion. There were no walls on the pavilion. But like when it rainstorms in the middle of Blue Ridge, it's no different. It can be 1994 now. It's no different. It's coming together and figuring it out. The magic of the kids was exactly the same. One thing that was very interesting and odd was that one thing I was very cognizant of is that I had been gone. And so I didn't feel it was my place to try to jump in and forcefully lead, because anytime you have something like that happening, there are big situations that come up, huge rainstorms, bears, whatever.
Sure.
And lots of, when you have that many amazing leaders, lots of times everybody wants to be the solver of the problem. And I quickly was like, yeah, that's not my role. And it was very interesting to me to see that all this time passes without you. Like there are all these people who are unbelievably integral to the school that were, I'll use the O6 honor leaders as an example, like that are very integrated in things. I wasn't even there then. I had had one child and was thinking about having another one, and like it wasn't on my radar then. And it was amazing though to still watch. The magic is exactly the same. It feels the same. It's even with the number of people and then the connections of people that I hadn't seen in years, or like Dave Radcliffe, who I hadn't seen in years, and we were honor leaders together, and we picked up and had conversations as if no time had passed. Same thing, Bryce Powell. I talked to Ryan a lot, but like you and Jeff, and it was amazing to be able to do that. And then like Meredith Powell, who was a much younger leader when I was an honor leader, and she and I clicked and connected as if we had been roommates our second year or something. So it was amazing.
Well, I tell you, Virgie, this has been just a joy for me. The time is flying way too fast. And if I could Zoom record my entire hard drive with you, I would. But let me give you the closing thoughts. So tonight we've been blessed all day today, starting with the Tampa YMCA and their highlight on what their club has done all year to get to Blue Ridge. You mentioned all the stuff that Tri-City used to do throughout the year to get to Blue Ridge. All of the things that we've talked about today, um, every leader feels it, whether it's a first year leader last year or whether it's, Ryan feeling it for the 35th time or Kevin Griffin being in that pavilion 40 years in a row or something like that. So we all have the same thoughts. And there are people on this call tonight, on this website, that haven't been to Blue Ridge in 1 year, 10 years, 30 years, but they're still listening tonight to us. And so I'm just curious, what your closing thoughts? How would you like to maybe wrap up our little time this evening?
I just want people to remember how impactful it is. And probably from both perspectives, you have no idea who has made an impact on your life. I could go on for longer than a Zoom call is able to go on, for the number of people who impacted me and made me realize my potential at a very important age, and even throughout the years after that. And then even the people who've come to me, like I said, it changes lives. Anybody who grew up going to Blue Ridge, it's the same thing as like a resident camp. It changes lives. And one thing I think we forget about is that there's an entire assembly behind it that makes that happen. The school is amazing, and we have some amazing staff and directors, and this is not to discredit anything that the senior leadership team does, but that place doesn't stop existing when our week ends. And that place exists year round. We are one of many conferences that lives are impacted, and if you think about the ripple effect of the number of people whose lives have changed because that assembly exists. So I just want people to think about how their life has been impacted by that. I've worked for the Y now. I know what a struggle we are all going through. The whole world has shut down, and Blue Ridge Assembly is in this really weird position where they are very different than other places. They're not part of a Y association, but they change Y associations. They make Y associations better. I believe YMCA Greater Cincinnati is better because of Blue Ridge Assembly, because they got me. But I think that I hope that people realize that that isn't free, and thinking about the things that have happened in their lives and how much that means to them. And if you have the capability to give, I really hope that you will join me. So I am going to give this year a $250 gift, but I would like to join as part of the Green Rockers Society. If my first year can be next year, because I'm finishing a capital gift at my Y currently. So
Elizabeth, Berkey.
I really want people to understand that. And there are a million life lessons that we could go on about, but none of these life lessons would exist if that place didn't exist. So I really do want people to understand that. So yeah. And thanks for being awesome, everybody.
I love you so much. We're lucky to have you back on the staff, and the movement is better to have you still in it. So with that, I'll let you go and get back to your kids, and just thank you so much. Number one, for coming back to the staff team. Number two, sharing a little bit about Jeff and Ryan and the things that they've done for you. And my gosh, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for that last little extra bit. Your gift is appreciated, and you absolutely will be hearing from me when we hang up this phone. I love you very much, Bergie.
Thank you very much. I love you too. Thank you for the life-changing impact you had.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
So the Green Rocker Society, to me, it symbolizes what we think of when we think of Eureka Hall now. You can't think of sitting on the porch without sitting on the green rockers. And so that's just tradition, and I support the tradition of the mountain. And so if that's a way to give back by memorializing and commemorating the green rockers and all of what that symbolizes, then I think it's a great way to give the money, to donate, but also to have it really feel like it's going to tradition and something that's going to have a positive effect.
This is a resource, and it is an iconic resource for the YMCA movement in the southern states. And the opportunity to give back, not only for what Blue Ridge Leader School did for me, but by partial extension what Blue Ridge Assembly has done for me, that's a very easy sell, to know that I'm helping preserve the opportunity for other kids to have their lives impacted positively the same way I did. That's one of those things that's hard to say no to.
1982, I sat on the porch here, had a great time. No way could I envision sitting here in 2019, still enjoying it to that, not that same level, even more so. It is contagious. It's like the disease you want to catch and you don't want the cure. It really is. It's just, there's magic. We talk about that, the magic. It's different for everybody. And it doesn't, in my case at least, it doesn't go away. It just keeps getting stronger and stronger. Being back this year has, it's like turning the burner up on the oven. It's just getting hotter and hotter and more and more enjoyable.
Well, when I was presented with the opportunity to do this Green Rocker Society, it was pretty cool because one of my favorite things at Blue Ridge is rocking in those green rocking chairs at Vespers during Blue Ridge Leader School. And so it was the easiest ask in the world when they asked me if I wanted to give to the school, help the school, and have a rocking chair that kind of just symbolized my family's commitment to the school and it continuing for years to come to serve young people.
So there are not many things that get the same kind of return that this place does. So we develop young people in ways that they don't get in other environments. Knowledge is the only thing that someone can't take away from you, but the knowledge that we teach on this mountain is very specific. It's not just academic. It's not just for the spirit. It's not just to bolster that human being. It's kind of all of those things. It really, really does embody that triangle and that spirit, mind, and body. I can't think of a better way to spend your treasure than to invest in people that are going to change the world. And I'm a firm believer that happens. It doesn't necessarily all happen with just one person, but the greater that number of people that have that as a thread of importance in their world, the greater chance there is that we will make a difference.
Everybody needs to come to this place for something, and the more we can support it and make a way for them to get here, then everybody's going to benefit. And whether it be through Leader School, Values Conference, other teen programs, and other programs that they're doing that aren't necessarily with teens.
I would tell someone that if they want to be part of tradition, part of being something bigger than you are, that this is a way to do that, and it really impacts the future generations and communities and the health and well-being of the future. And this is a way to do it while supporting tradition.